All right, I'd like to welcome all of you to Healthy Cooking 101, and we're glad that you signed up for it, and this is something new that the college is trying. And so we'll start out with myself doing a little talk on nutrition, not too long, don't worry about that. And then we'll get into the cooking demonstration, and then you'll actually get your hands dirty and get to do a little cooking yourselves. And so Natalie Pang is one of our graduate students, and she has put together the curriculum for the teaching session in regards to cooking. And so I think we'll have a lot of fun today, and hopefully you'll learn some things. So the handout you have is for planning a menu, and so we wanted to focus this on not just thinking about a meal or one day, but kind of thinking and planning ahead in terms of how can I eat healthily every day, and planning out maybe your shopping during the week. So first off, we'll do healthy nutrition and then talk about food prep strategies, then creating a well-balanced meal, and then also we'll have some presentations at the end in regards to some of the food sources that are available on campus. And so I am Joan Frank, and I'm the Assistant Program Director here for the Dietetics Program, which is the Clinical Nutrition Program, and I'm a continuing lecturer in the Nutrition Department. Okay. So first off, this is your grocery game plan, so I thought it's a great place to write some notes as we're talking about ideas in regards to healthy eating. And so first off, how many of you are familiar with Choose My Foods? You've seen that? Maybe when you were in elementary school, junior high, you talked about the food pyramid. Well, this replaced the food pyramid quite a few years ago. I like it because it helps you make choices every day and every meal, and it's a great visual in terms of thinking about your plate and what it should look like. And so we look for half fruits and vegetables, a quarter being grains, and then a quarter being protein. And so we'll talk about each of those areas. And so first off, vegetables. So I want to ask you, how do you fit vegetables into your diet? Yes? Salads, excellent. Salads are great. I personally try to have a salad every day because it's a great way to get the green leafy vegetables in. Excellent. Anyone else? Yes? Good. Adding veggies to everything you cook. That way you can't miss including them in your diet. Excellent. And I know sometimes some days we struggle with getting enough vegetables in. I love if you remember the 5-a-day program, you're 5 and you can count, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then 2 snacks. But in terms of incorporating it into our meals, sometimes we struggle with that. And so Natalie will actually show us some ways to actually do that within our recipes that we're learning today. And so I love this picture. Actually, I took that picture, and I love vegetables. And so what's hard for some people is I don't know what to do with things. And so some simple things you can do is you can actually roast vegetables in the oven in a pan. It doesn't matter what vegetables you put in there. Drizzle a little bit of olive oil, add Italian spices or something else. Sometimes a spice mix is really helpful, and then just roast it 45 minutes to an hour, and literally every 15 minutes you just toss it together. And I do that at the beginning of the week, and then I incorporate that into other dishes that I'm cooking. So a lot of great vegetables that are available. We're getting into the fall and winter vegetables, which is the broccoli and cauliflower, and they're all really helpful and healthy for us. The other thing to think about with your fruits and vegetables is the rainbow. So think of these in terms of trying to eat a variety of colors. There are a lot of phytonutrients that are the pigments that are in the fruits and vegetables that are healthy to us as well. So this is actually a great handout. It's probably hard to see because it's a little bit small, but the point is talking about fruits and vegetables and their affordability. And this is from a couple years ago. I couldn't find one that's more up to date. But some of the least expensive fruits and vegetables, like watermelon, bananas, honeydew melon, apples, and pears, are things that are easy to incorporate into your diet. In terms of vegetables, cabbage, potatoes, lettuce or salad, like you mentioned, tomatillos, carrots, eggplant are on the highest on the list in terms of their affordability. And so a lot of people say, oh, fresh fruits and vegetables are too expensive. And so this actually is a great way to realize they're not. I think I saw in the store bananas are 29 cents a piece. And so that's really not very much when you think of how much we pay for coffee beverage. Probably for the same price as a Venti something, you could actually purchase fruits and vegetables for the day. So how about our fruits? What are some ways that you incorporate fruit into your diet every day? Yes. Smoothies. Yeah, smoothies are great. And what's good about them is you're not using the juice, you're actually pureeing the fruit. And you can also maybe squeeze in a little bit of yogurt or something else. Good. Who else? What else do you? Yes?
Just a snack on the side.
Yeah, a snack on the side. Great. And they're so sweet. They're like nature's candy. You know, that's good. Yes? And mix it in with yogurt. Excellent. Yeah, it's my lunch every day. So, anyone else? Okay. And actually, this picture is from a hospital. I took that picture and I loved that. It was right near the cash register. And so kind of encouraging people as that final thing as I'm heading out, ooh, I think I'll grab a banana. Okay, so next, grains. So what are some ways that you incorporate healthy grains? These are actually all whole grains. And so it's like oatmeal, whole grain pastas. Sometimes people feel as though if you get spaghetti that's whole wheat, it can be kind of hard to chew and it takes longer to cook. I usually just cook it longer till it gets softer. And I switched my family over to the whole grain pastas quite a few years ago, and now that's all they want. And so what are some things that you do to incorporate whole grains in your diet? Breakfast is easy. Yes? Sandwich on whole grain bread. Yeah, and so you want to look for ingredients, like the first ingredient is going to be like whole wheat or whole grains. Not just, if it says like wheat flour, that just means it's white flour. But excellent. There's another hand up. Someone else? Yes?
Use whole wheat tortilla.
Yeah. So whole wheat tortillas. And so if you go in the market, the tortilla section is like expanding. You can get them made with spinach that are green, with tomatoes that are red, but certainly the whole wheat ones are a great option versus the white ones. I like that. And then corn tortillas are whole grain because they're ground up corn. And so another great option. Anyone else? Behind you. Cereals. Oh yes, cereals definitely do. And actually, a lot of people, the main ways that they get their whole grains is through bread and through cereal. And so with your breakfast cereal, you want to look again for something that says the first ingredient that's a whole grain, certainly. And then also look at the dietary fiber, because you can be assured that it's whole grain if there's a good amount of fiber, more than like 3 grams in the nutrition facts label. Yeah, and you were going to say?
Whole grain crackers with cheese and fruit.
Yeah, whole grain crackers with cheese and fruit, and makes a great lunch. And so whole grain crackers, a wide variety to choose from, and so looking again for the first ingredient being whole grain. All right, and then our protein. So a lot of choices in terms of protein. If you're a vegetarian or a vegan, you have to eat a little bit more with purpose in terms of getting good sources of protein, but certainly tofu and beans and a variety of beans certainly are excellent options. And those of you that do eat meat, I certainly encourage trying a meatless day here and there. And so incorporating more beans into your diet, and one of the recipes today does incorporate tofu and also with some beans. And I think we're using canned beans. So canned beans are a really good, quick way of cooking them. I know seafood is often on the more expensive side. And so for a lot of people's budgets, you might look for a less expensive fish, or even consider, some canned fish as an option. And then certainly meat and poultry. And so eating poultry that has removed the skin and then roasting them, certainly staying away from some of the fried meats. All right, and then dairy. I don't like to call it a dairy group, but I certainly, when you think of it more of in terms of calcium sources, also it's a good protein source. And so if you don't or can't eat dairy products, certainly there are options such as almond milk or soy milk. For those of you that are vegetarian and vegan, the almond milks and most of the nut milks are not great sources of protein. Okay, they certainly will be fortified with calcium, but you want to go with something more like soy milk because it's a good source of protein. But and if you can't get enough calcium in your diet, then certainly you know, a supplement is fine. But we always encourage you to get all of your nutrients through your food first. So the majority of you are women, but a couple men, but it is important at your age right now that your bones are actually absorbing the most amount of calcium. And so you're at a perfect time where you should be getting enough calcium because your bones are just going to absorb it. And so certainly a nutrient you need to be thinking about. And then finally, back to the graphic. I like this because think about, you know, your meal. If you're eating a bowl, your base could be a grain. It could be brown rice. It could be quinoa, or your base could be salad. Until you have greens on the bottom, and then you have some quinoa on the side, and then you might have some beans for your protein, or you might have some tuna or some chicken. Really, it's a great way of kind of mixing things up every day and trying different foods. And so I can't not talk about healthy fats. One other aspect to think about. And so going for something like olive oil, canola oil, which are healthy fats, as well as certainly nuts are a great source of healthy fats. Seafood has the omega-3 fatty acids, so that's healthy fat, also good for you. And avocado, which is like an amazing fruit. It's a fruit, even though people might think it's a vegetable. And we do have avocado incorporating into our meal today. So when you look at the Choose My Plate, our meal actually meets that quite nicely. And so one quick comment about what we call SOFAs. They're the solid fats and sugars. And so the typical American consumes almost 300 calories a day from sugars. And so you're not going to sit there and eat 17 teaspoons of sugar. But when you think about it being in your diet, it's something to consider that you want to decrease that. And so the American Heart Association is recommending half of that, getting closer to 10 teaspoons. But realistically for women, you should aim for maybe 6 teaspoons, men for maybe 9. Just because of caloric needs. But certainly we can all use to decrease the amount of sugar in our diet, because there are a lot of hidden sources in a lot of sauces and things that you might not be aware of. And there's a smaller amount. All right. And so this weekly planner, I think as we talk, maybe some of the ideas we talked about that you shared with us, you can write down some ideas. And then when we're talking about the different meals, thinking about what days you could serve those, and then kind of coming up with a menu maybe on the other side of the sheet. And I think you'll come away with some good skills. We also want to help you make wonderful choices when you go to the supermarket. And I think this will be an impetus for, you know, next week trying this recipe or two and incorporating it into your diet and having fun with it. So great. And this is in your bag. You'll have a goodie bag at the end, and these are 10 tips for healthy eating for an active lifestyle. Great. I think we will now switch over to Natalie. Thank you.
This is Cooking 101, and today I essentially helped prepare 2 recipes. Hopefully y'all like them. They consist of tacos and what I like to call loaded fries. The second one builds off the first, just so we can have kind of like a leftover makeover type of thing. Yeah, first things first, we will be doing our potatoes. Just when we're looking at our potatoes, we do want to wash them, wash all your produce under cool running water. These have been washed for me, as well as anything at Yellow stations. So with our potatoes, we're going to be roasting them. We're going to be making fries with them. I just want to start with these first, just so everybody can have them done in a timely manner, just because this will be the one that takes the most time. So when we have our potatoes, we're going to cut them in half lengthwise like so. When we're cutting any of our vegetables, one of the things to keep in mind is we have our knives. Typically you'll have a chef knife that you want to turn to. The chef knife just keeps, ideally it may look intimidating, but it keeps things safe. In order to hold your chef knife, take the handle, take your index finger and your thumb and either put it on the handle itself or on the blade. When we're cutting our potatoes, we'll be taking the tip of our knife and just running it through the potatoes like so to get strips that look like fries. And so we'll be taking our knife and running through them like this. So if y'all want longer fries, we keep them long like this. But if you do want shorter fries, just take your potato, cut it in half in the middle, and you can end up cutting the fries like so. And so typically we'll want it on a cookie sheet. Or Stephanie, one of y'all, can you grab me a cookie sheet, please? Okay. And so while Stephanie's doing that, I just kind of want to give y'all a little background on these recipes. These recipes were essentially created with 5 things in mind today. Essentially, we hope that y'all find cooking as convenient, just because a lot of times we think, as students, our life is hectic. However, even though we may take some time initially prepping our food, it will help save us time in the long run. So cooking doesn't have to be something we take an hour every day to do. It may take maybe an hour or so to prep, maybe on Sunday, but throughout the week, you can always do things a lot faster, typically 10, 15 minutes. Cool, thank you, Stephanie. Do we have another cookie sheet by any chance? Okay, and that's perfect. And so, first thing, cooking can be convenient. Secondly, it can be affordable. There's ways to navigate the grocery store, like Joan was mentioning, where we can actually find healthy foods and produce for an affordable price. It doesn't have to be expensive. Secondly, hopefully y'all leave today with tasty recipes. Hoping that you enjoy these recipes. I've created them and I've tested them with my friends. They enjoy them, I enjoy them, so hopefully y'all can enjoy them too. It can be healthy, so we're going back to my plate like Joan was saying, where we're talking about our different groups. And so both these recipes include different, thank you Francine, different things from our different food groups, especially that fruits and vegetables portion. It incorporates some whole grains, some proteins, some vegetarian sources of proteins, and so we could experiment with those tastes. And lastly, hopefully y'all will be able to have some fun today. Okay, so now that we have our cookie sheet, with our potatoes will take the longest today. However, they are the recipe we're going to build off of. So when we have our cookie sheet, we just lay our potatoes down. Y'all will have more potatoes at your station, but for the purposes of this demonstration, I'll just quickly show you typically what y'all will be doing. So we have our potatoes on our sheet. We'll take our oil. Today we have canola oil, and we'll just drizzle it on our potatoes like so. Once it's on our potatoes, I typically like to season mine with paprika. If there's garlic powder, there should be garlic powder at your stations, and salt, just a tiny bit. You don't have to go overboard, but a little can go a long way. And typically, we'll just toss it. You can take what the utensils you have and mix it. If the utensils aren't working, I typically just go for it with my hands, especially when I'm at home. And so you just want to mix it, get it evenly coated with the oil. And you should be good to go. This technique can totally be used with other vegetables as well. Like Joan was saying, there's many different vegetables. A lot of them do good with roasting. And so we do have our cookie sheet. We do have some potatoes already done. Oh, of course. Here. And so our potatoes would be on our cookie sheet. So this is before it gets placed in the oven. It's just coated with the oil, coated with the seasoning, and then we would pop it in the oven. We do have a finished product, and so it's right over there. I'll trade you, Stephanie. Finished products looks like this. We're gonna pop it in the oven for 450 for about 30 minutes. At the 15-minute mark, make sure you just take out your potatoes, stir them a little bit, just so they get coated evenly. And so the potatoes should typically look like this. Leave them in the oven longer if you want them crunchier. But for today's time, just 30 minutes should be good. Okay, so that's the recipe we'll be building on. That's just to get us started. The first recipe that we will be building off of is actually our tacos. And our tacos will consist of an egg base, so scrambled tofu. We have tofu at each of our stations, as well as eggs, so it'll be your choice and your group's choice, depending on what you want to do. Today I'll take you through the scrambled tofu just for convenience sake, just because it's a little more of an interesting thing to work with. It'll be dressed with black beans, which we'll dress up in one of our pots, as well as our toppings. We have peppers and onions that we'll be sauteing and adding to our tacos, cilantro, lime, some sriracha if y'all like hot. I do like hot, so I'm gonna throw some sriracha on there, as well as that lime juice. And so before we get to our tacos, I'm just going to take y'all through some of the different techniques we'll be doing, different knife techniques. So with our onions, we'll first be doing cutting the onions. We'll be using the onions for both sauteed onions and peppers, as well as our black beans right here. And so as we cut the onions, we're gonna take our onion, cut that bottom off, and cut that top off. And then once we have the top and bottom cut off, we'll have it sitting on our cutting board. We'll cut our onion in half, take our onion, and if y'all notice, right here I do have an extra bowl. I typically just use it here so I can just dump any of my trash, so I don't have to keep going back and forth to a trash can. I find it makes cooking and cleaning up a lot more convenient. And so I'll just peel my onion. Pull the onions. And we'll go through a mincing technique, which we use for the beans, as well as the slicing technique. Prior to that, I'm just going to turn on my stoves, get the heat going, just because it does take a little time to heat up. And then we should be good to go. In each of the pans, I'll put about a tablespoon of oil for the black beans, and it'll be about a couple tablespoons for the actual sauteed peppers and onions. And so when we're cutting our onions, we take the onion. In order to mince it, we're going to use our knife technique again. We're going to keep that tip of the blade down on the cutting board and have it run through the onion like so. When we're holding all the produce, we want to actually keep, with the hand that's not using the knife, we want to keep our fingers in a straight line. Keep our thumb behind our fingers, just so if we do have a mishap when we're cutting, we don't end up accidentally nicking ourselves. And so, as we're mincing, we'll slice it in this direction, the lengthwise direction. And then we'll turn our onion towards its side, the round sides facing us, and we're gonna run our knife using a different technique. This technique will consist of rocking our knife back and forth like a saw. So we're keeping our fingers on our blade or on our handle, whichever one's more comfortable, and we're going to run our knife through it. We do have some minced onions here on the side of the table. They're essentially just tiny pieces of onions. And so with the oil, we can hear the oil in the back. We can add our onions to our oil. I'm gonna use the ones that's already in the cup. It's about a quarter cup for a couple cans of black beans. And we'll add it. And so as we're cooking, we could actually go back to our 5 senses. So hearing, touch, taste, smell. And so as I'm going through this demonstration, try to get in touch with those senses. And so at least when I put the onions in, can someone explain to me what senses are coming to them? Yeah. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so we had hearing the sizzle. When the oil's heated, you should be able to hear that sizzle in the onions. Heating the oil allows us to actually cook our food without all the oil absorbing directly into whatever food we're cooking. So it ends up getting a nice flavor instead of being super oil lodged. Right now, I'm just draining our can of black beans. You don't have to drain it if you don't want to. I just find it tastes a lot better, so that's more of a personal preference thing. And so, actually here, let's do this. Okay, so this stove is gonna be heating up. Y'all should be able to see it now. Since I've put the onions in, it actually started to brown. This is good, this is what we wanna get. And as we have our oil, we're actually, our oil and onions sauteing in here, we actually want it to brown like this, and we wanna add a seasoning. We wanna add some seasoning to it. Typically I'll use paprika, cumin, and a little bit of salt for this, and a bay leaf. These onions, I'm doing it like this to make something called a sofrito. It's typically a Latin American technique. Not all Latin American countries use it, but I found it really makes my black beans a lot more flavorful, and it's a lot more appealing for me to eat. And so you could use this technique if you're making the black beans for the tacos, or if you're trying to pair the black beans with rice, or any other way that you'd like to try it. So we have our stove, it's seasoning, the onions, and as the onions get translucent and we have our spices mixed together, we're gonna go and add our black beans. So a can of black beans, it's already drained, add it in. You can hear that sizzle again. So we have one more can. And so how many of y'all actually are comfortable with beans? Do y'all eat beans? Okay, okay, so we have quite a handful of you. How do y'all make your beans? Okay, shoulder shrug, there was a hand. Would you like to share?
I actually added to salads as well.
Oh, nice. Okay, so salads is a big go-to. I heard salads while Joan was presenting. Okay, so I'm just gonna drain that again. I'm going to add these black beans to this pot right here. And so this bubbling is good. This bubbling is essentially allowing the flavors that we added to the onions with the seasoning and everything to kind of melt in with our beans. And so we want this is about medium heat right now on this stove. I'm going to move this stove, this pot to the back stove, and I'll let it simmer there. The simmering allows those flavors to infuse a bit more, typically because beans are bland, but this infusion process allows it to get a little more flavor and be a little more flavorful. So we have our black beans going. I'm going to move these onions.
I'm going to pause you for a moment.
Yeah.
We can be careful with this, but we should center it so students can see it on the screen.
Oh yeah, of
And
course.
there's tape on the board to show you. So
Okay.
it should be in the center right here. So maybe if we move this,
Move.
move the onions out of the way so that they could see the everything else.
Okay, so we move the cutting board?
Yeah.
Okay.
And if we could maybe slide this over so when you're showing what's inside the pot, they can see what's in it.
Okay, yeah, for sure. Okay, so I'm just moving our onions. I'm putting it in a container, just because I had some pre-sliced, some pre-minced onions. Stephanie, you give me the okay when it's.
Be careful so you don't pull on that.
Okay. Yeah?
I think that should be fine. Because they could see it on the screen now when you put the pot in the thing.
Okay. Which one? Oh. Okay, thank you. Sorry, y'all. This is our first go with all the fun equipment. Okay, so like our beans, we had our pre-minced onions. We're going to be making our scrambled eggs and tofu as our beans are simmering, just to kind of save on time. All these toppings are things that we can use later in the week, and that's what I'll be dressing up those potatoes with. So next up is our fajitas. The fajitas mix is consisting of our onions and our peppers. If we're using the camera, our onions and our peppers. And I want to take you through how to actually get it to that and how to slice it safely. So we still have half our onion. Took it off, we took the top off, we took the bottom off, we peeled it. That's how we got to here. And we're going to be using that technique again. Instead of being careful about not cutting it all the way through, we're actually going to run our knife through and cut everything and slice it. So remember, fingers on handle or fingers on blade, fingers in a line, fingers on the onion, and now we're slicing it. And once it gets to a point where it's difficult to slice, we're going to put the onion on its side like so, and we're going to continue slicing and continue using that cooking technique. Yeah, so see, onions are in a thin strip. We're able to do it relatively quickly, and we're able to keep our hands safe. Before I get to the bell pepper, I am going to get another frying pan going. This is going to be the frying pan I saute those bell peppers and onions in. So we're going to pour some oil. Typically about enough to coat the pan is great. With the non-stick pans, we do have to use a little less, so don't worry too much. It's not going to stick with these pans. We're going to put our onions into our onion bowl. When I'm scooping up the onions, I use the knife on one end and my hand with the other to scoop it relatively easy. This allows me to pick up enough produce off of my cutting board just in a more convenient way. So we have our onions. We're going to go through our bell pepper. I'm going to keep an eye on this oil as it heats up. As it heats up, it will get a little more quick. Has anybody heard that term glassy look? A few nods, few no's. Okay, with those who nodded their heads, can you explain to us what glassy looks are on the oil? Okay. Okay, that's okay. Okay, so with our oil, that glassy look, if you can look at our screen, when I'm moving the oil, it's going to go a lot faster, and it's going to get kind of a shimmering look to it. And so once it's like this, that's when I'll start adding vegetables. If you're doing another recipe that includes meat, anything like that. And so I'll add some onions. I'll show you what the bell peppers look like in a bit, just as the onions are cooking. So we have our onions in the pan. They're going to be cooking. We're going to go to this bell pepper. The easiest way I found to cut this bell pepper is by cutting it on all four sides. Bell peppers are typically square shaped, and so we'll just run our knife down it. So remember our knife technique, how we're holding it. I'm just going to run it through on all four corners. And then if we want that bottom, we can totally take that bottom too. Just take our knife. That goes into our trash bowl. If we have extra seeds inside our bell pepper that's left over, we can take it out with our hands like so. We should be good to go. So now we have four sides of our bell pepper. We're gonna put the outside face down on our cutting board and the inside towards us. We're gonna turn it diagonally. Just because our knife is so big, this is going to allow us to have control, and we're going to run our knife through it. Okay, so Going back to our senses again, can anybody tell me or share with me some of the things that they're experiencing while either the onions are cooking or I'm chopping this bell pepper? Okay, you like the aroma. Oh, perfect. Anybody else? Yeah? Oh, yeah, so you don't have to chop it as fast, especially when you're first doing it. It took me a while to gain speed. Name of the game is to stay first, but the more you practice, the faster it'll get, especially when you start off with good techniques. That's the foundation for everything. And so, as the onions get more translucent, I'm just gonna add those bell peppers in. So we can use our knife technique again to scoop, add bell pepper down, that's okay. That just goes in the trash bowl. And we could add more. I have some pre-sliced again. I'm just gonna add some just so we can cook that. As this is cooking, I'm gonna stir this again, but I'm gonna put it in one of the back burners just so we can start that egg scramble and we can get on to making our tacos. Okay, so this will be cooking back here. And then we're actually gonna go to our tofu, that tofu scramble, that egg scramble, whichever one you wanna do. This demo is gonna go through the tofu. Today we have the firm tofu. I found it works good with the scrambled eggs. If y'all don't like firm tofu and like another, I guess the firm or extra firm, try it out. There's no harm in doing so. I just cut the tofu package just so we could drain that water out. I know for this recipe, I don't press all the moisture out of the tofu. I know some recipes do that. I know some people do that when they're making tofu. However, I found when I'm scrambling it, it ends up leaving a rubbery taste that I don't find too appealing. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm gonna just find my other pan. So one more pan. This pan we're gonna heat up just like the other ones. We're gonna put that oil in. We're gonna let it heat, and then we're going back to our tofu. So we drained that excess water out. There should be at least not as much water in it. And then, can you pass me a fork from your station, please? Yeah, that's perfect. So any fork will do. Essentially what the name of the game is to get this kind of like eggs. The way we do that is we take our fork, we put it in our tofu, and the easiest way I found to do it with the least mess is scrambling it inside the container it comes in. And so I twist it. I try not to mash it just because it ends up getting little bits in it. And so we'll twist it like so. Okay, so that should be good enough, at least before we get it into our pan. With scrambled tofu, the idea is to just make it like scrambled eggs. And so this was one of the easier techniques that I found to get that consistency. Okay, let's check our pan. Almost there. Okay, so we have our tofu. We're gonna now put it in our pan. We hear that sizzle again. And so it does have some moisture because of that water, but that's okay. What I found is it actually helps keep some of the moisture inside our tofu. What I'm doing now is I just turned up the heat just a little bit so we can get I like to call it like a nice browning on our tofu. I don't know if y'all had scrambled eggs with that's browned a little bit, but I found that it ends up instilling some flavor a bit more. And so in here, It's a mixture of some of our spices. Turmeric adds a beautiful yellow color, paprika, cumin, and salt. It's usually for every one scoop of turmeric, there's about half a teaspoon of everything else. So I'm just going to sprinkle that in. We're going to stir it. Stir it just so our seasoning gets incorporated into everything. And after it's incorporated, we're just gonna let it sit. We're gonna let it sit so it gets that browning color on it. Okay. Okay. So has anybody had experience with scrambled tofu before? Yes and no's? How was your experience? Yeah? Enjoyable? Okay, so we have our tofu cooking. We have our peppers and our onions back there. We have our black beans back there. There is something going wrong with the stoves where it's not cooking anymore, but we're gonna make do with what we have. Okay, so I'm gonna let that sit there. Hopefully that ends up turning back on, but if not, that's okay too. I'm gonna end up showing you how to how to chop your toppings. For our toppings, we have our cilantro, we have our lime back here. We have avocado, so if anyone's vegan, please feel free to use the avocados. If you're not, that's fine too. You're more than welcome to use it. I just got that as a substitute if anybody can't use the yogurt. And so with the cilantro, some of the easiest ways I found to cut it, we wash it of course, but we end up rolling it up in a bunch like this, trying to get all the leaves into one pile, and we're gonna run our knife through with those knife skills we previously learned. So we run our knife through our cilantro. Again, stay safe, you don't have to do it fast. To get the rest of it, we get our other hand, we put it on the tip of the blade, we keep our blade down on our cutting board, and we're consistent with that motion. So cilantro, good to go. I'm just gonna put the cilantro on the side. With our limes, limes are pretty simple. They're pretty self-explanatory. We just roll it like so. By rolling it, we get those juices flowing in our onion. We cut our lime in half, and typically I'll just cut it into threes. So we have little wedges that we could end up squeezing onto our tacos. There we go. Cool. We're good to go back there. This is still cooking. The way I tell the scrambled tofu is done is once the water evaporates from it. That's typically when the flavors infuse and it gets that nice browning effect that I typically like with the scrambled eggs. So avocado, cut the avocado in half, open it up, and then we can slice it in the middle and take a spoon, scoop it out, and lay it on our tacos. Okay, y'all. So I'm just gonna show you quickly how to put the tacos together, just so we can get y'all going at your stations. But typically when I do these tacos, the tortillas are warmed on the pan. I'll typically use 2 at a time, warm them in our pan, get them so it's toasted on the outside, and by having the 2, it gets toasty on the outside but steamed on the inside. I'll typically lay some scrambled eggs or tofu on it. We're gonna put some peppers and onions. Some black beans. A scoop of yogurt. So this is plain yogurt. I typically get plain yogurt just because I go through it a lot faster than sour cream. And it has a lot of that good bacteria for your gut for you. So for me, it's more of an economical choice. If you like sour cream, go for it. If you're vegan, you like vegan yogurt, go for it. We're going to take the avocado that we cut up too. Put it on top of our taco. Put the cilantro on it. Put some lime on it. Get the sriracha. And the tacos should be good to go. And so this is a quick version. Hopefully at y'all's station, warm up your tortillas, enjoy your time cooking. I'll be walking around, so if y'all need help, yeah, there's always help that can be offered. You'll have faculty members there, and enjoy your time. If you have any questions, my name is Natalie, and I'll just be walking around, so have fun.
A brief overview of the new Aggie Compass Basic Needs Center here on campus. And so we opened maybe in around, I'd say mid-June of this summer. And it's a new center here on campus that's dedicated to all things basic needs here at UC Davis. And it initially started with something called the Global Food Initiative, which was a UC-wide effort to reduce food insecurity here on UC campuses. And with that money, UC Davis decided to build the Aggie Compass Basic Needs Center. Maybe you've seen it. It's in the MU. It's in a pretty extroverted position in a high foot traffic area. It was a little bit risky to put it there, but we're hoping that we can destigmatize some of the culture around basic needs, such as when someone hears the term EBT or food stamps or what California calls it, CalFresh. We're hoping that we can bring these things to light so that we can better assist students that may benefit from a lot of these assistive services. And I think it's important that as a campus we work together to help each other out with things with basic needs, which for the Aggie Compass we've defined as financial assistance, housing stability, and mental health and food security as well. Because I don't know if you guys saw recently in the news, but California has recently become the 5th largest economy on the planet, and it's just surpassed the UK. But I think in our state we have a lot of, I would say, wealth disparity. And it's not just in the state as a whole, but it transfers over to UC campuses as well. On our campuses, we still have students that don't have homes. The most recent survey, which was 2 years ago, is UC-wide, found that 5% of students were homeless within the last year, and that 48% of undergraduates experienced food insecurity within the year of that survey, while the graduate students was 26%. And I personally found these numbers really surprising. I didn't expect that almost half of UC students, half of undergraduates would experience food insecurity within the year of that survey. And so it's very important for the work that we do. And I guess I could just give you some a brief summary of some of the things that we offer at this time. We're still working on a lot of project development. We're still new. We're still figuring out the best way to help people. Obviously, it'd be great if we could just give students houses, or we just give like wads of cash to people who need it, but things don't work that way, and maybe that wouldn't be the best way to help people in the long run to make sure that they're self-sustaining. So the services that we offer are mainly supplementary. The big one is that we have Max from CalFresh, who helps enroll individuals in EBT program. Secondarily, you can enroll people in Medi-Cal as well, low-income health insurance. Another thing that we have is we have something called Fruit and Veggie Up, which is twice a week on Tuesday and Thursday. We offer free fruits and veggies, locally sourced produce. No cost, all you need is a student ID to show up. We're still working on the best ways to approach financial assistance and housing. Those are kind of big issues to tackle. They're kind of a state issue and city issue as well. And our team is mostly students. We have 9 student employees, our director Leslie and our CalFresh representative Max. But we're hoping that with the opening of this center that we can make a difference, because I think it's important that regardless of your financial situation or anyone's financial situation here at Davis, that there's a more equal playing field, for lack of better terminology, that everyone has the opportunity to pursue their academic and professional aspirations unhindered. You shouldn't be homeless while you're here at Davis. We hope that it doesn't come to that. I think it was just a week and a half ago we heard that there was a student actually sleeping in the hammocks in the quad by the NU. The student didn't self-identify, but we know these things are here. We may not see them out in the open, but there are cases where people are just not getting the basic needs that to help them succeed here at UC Davis. And I think that's pretty much everything, but yeah, we're also looking for volunteers within the coming year as well. So if anyone is interested in participating, we have connections and collaborations with groups like the Pantry, OSSJA, which does crisis counseling. So in that regard, we don't just see students for assistance for food and other resources. We also deal with some students that may be in more of a crisis situation, more dramatic, where they're severely deficient, severely insecure with a basic need. And so we have resources to help even those extreme cases as well. But for now, I want to hand it over to Max, and he's going to give a more thorough explanation of what CalFresh is. Maybe some of you guys could benefit in it. This county as a whole has a lot of eligible people for CalFresh, and not a lot of people who are signed up for it. And actually, the biggest reason for that gap in people who are not signed up for CalFresh is actually here at UC Davis in the student population. So Max is going to give some more information on that. If you're interested, come show up at the Aggie Campus later this week. Yeah.
My name is Max Baca. I'm a Yolo County employee. Pretty much, to put it simply, I help individuals enroll in CalFresh here at the UC Davis campus. So as far as I know, I'm the only county worker stationed at a UC who helps individuals enroll in CalFresh. So pretty much, can most of you see this screen? I just want to kind of get a sense. Okay, so if you want me to repeat anything, obviously towards the end, obviously I'll have time to answer any questions. So pretty much what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you an overview of what CalFresh is, who may be eligible, and how to apply. So let's get started. Okay, so what is CalFresh? CalFresh was formerly known as food stamps. Obviously, we don't use food stamps anymore, so California rebranded it as CalFresh. At the end of the day, what it is, it's a federally funded program. It's a supplemental nutrition program. So basically, it helps students purchase groceries by giving them benefits if they're eligible. And like I said, I'm going to just touch upon some of the few requirements that you need to complete in order to be eligible for CalFresh benefits. So pretty much anybody can apply for CalFresh benefits, and I do recommend, if you think that you're eligible, apply anyways, because it doesn't hurt. Because at the end of the day, the best thing that could happen is that you get benefits and you save some money. So with students, it actually is a little bit harder as opposed to the general population in order to qualify because there is a student requirement. These are just some of the ways that you can meet the student requirement. So just to name a few, if you're working an average of 20 hours a week, and so there are a variety of requirements that you must meet. This is just pertaining to the student requirement. So if you're meeting this requirement, it doesn't automatically mean that you're eligible. It means you have a greater chance of getting approved. So one way to meet that requirement is if you're working an average of 20 hours a week, or if you have an approved state or federally funded work-study job. If you have a child and you have inadequate child care, you may be eligible that way. If you're an EOP student, you meet the requirement. If you're receiving a Cal Grant A or B, you also may meet the requirement. I always do get a lot of freshmen who end up applying for CalFresh. Unfortunately, freshmen are ineligible for CalFresh during their freshman year due to the fact that they're getting their needs met through another source. Specifically, freshmen do have a meal plan. So they basically have the potential of getting more than half of their meals met through another source. That's why they're ineligible. So if you're a freshman, I'm not sure if there's any freshmen here, but if you know somebody that may be a freshman, just tell them to wait until their sophomore year to apply. So how does CalFresh work? So obviously you need to apply, but if you get approved, you get an EBT card. So some of you may be able to see the picture up here. So an EBT card is essentially a debit card. So you'll have the card and a PIN number. If you get approved, those benefits get loaded up onto the card at the beginning of the month, and they do roll over. And like I said, it works exactly like a debit card. So you, when you go to the grocery store, you use those little machines, and then when you purchase groceries, you basically purchase groceries like you normally would, but you first use your EBT, and then whatever is not EBT eligible, you use another form of payment like cash or credit. So retailers that accept EBT is accepted at the majority of the grocery stores. Anything from Trader Joe's to Safeway, Save Mart, Grocery Outlet, those are just a few. You can even go use it at Costco if you want. So what can you purchase with EBT? Pretty much it's just food. So no toiletries, no cleaning products, no alcohol, no tobacco. In regards to food, as long as it's not prepared and ready to eat, you should be fine. So what I mean by that is if you go to like Safeway or Save Mart, sometimes they have like cooked items like rotisserie chicken, macaroni, and all that stuff. You won't be able to use it on that, but anything else in the grocery store is pretty much fair game. So some of the eligibility basics. So another common question that I get is, who do I have to put on my application? Do I have to put my parents, my housemates, my roommates? So let me kind of answer that. If you're living away from home, we do not require any of your parents' information. So pretty much it depends on who's living with you and who purchases and prepares food together. So the majority of you, I'm assuming, live with housemates and roommates. So if you live with housemates and roommates, but you purchase and prepare food by yourself, you would be a CalFresh household of one person. That basically means we just need your information. But if you do purchase and prepare food with another individual, everybody has to be on board to apply for CalFresh because we would need all of you, basically all of the individuals' information that purchase and prepare food together, if that makes any sense. So residency, again, people are telling me where should they apply? Pretty much, if you're living in Davis right now, you're a Yolo County resident, even though your permanent address may be somewhere else. The benefit amount will basically vary on quite a few factors, but pretty much it depends on your income, but we do take into account rent and utilities, so household expenses. So income. Income is pretty much your wages or any money that you get from another source. For example, you do have to report if you're working, if you're receiving money from your parents, if you receive financial aid, you do have to report it on the application, but almost like 99% of the time, it does not count against you. So pretty much if you're a household of one, which is the majority of the students, if your income is below $1,307 monthly gross, you have a good chance of being approved for CalFresh benefits. So resources. If you have money in your bank account, don't worry about it. That does not count against you. You literally could have $1 million in your bank account and still qualify for CalFresh benefits. Moving on to citizenship, because this is also a very common question I usually get. Do I have to be a citizen? So if you're a U.S. citizen or a lawful permanent resident, aka a green card holder, you may qualify for CalFresh benefits. So unfortunately, undocumented individuals, AB 540 students, and DACA students, international students, unfortunately do not qualify because they do not meet the they don't meet the citizenship requirement. But if there's somebody else in your household that wants to apply, they can, if they're a U.S. citizen or a green card holder. Also, some other groups may qualify, including refugees, asylees, and some victims of human trafficking. So, application process, how to apply. There are a variety of ways to apply. The first thing is basically online. You can apply online through getcalfresh.org. So if you go to the Aggie Compass website, there's actually a link right there. So I recommend, if you're interested in applying online, go to the Aggie Compass website, and basically you'll find the link to apply for CalFresh. It is a simplified version of the application, which takes less than like 15 minutes to complete. But if you do complete an online application, that basically means that the county will contact you within a couple of days to set up a phone interview or an in-person interview at one of our offices. The second way to apply is through me. I'm also located at the Aggie Compass. So that basically means that if you want to apply through me, I do things a little bit differently. I basically help you complete the application and do the interview all at the same time. Right now, I am kind of booked all the way until November because there's a ton of people who want to apply. So if you're interested in applying for CalFresh, I recommend to go to the Aggie Compass directly. If you want to go to the Aggie Compass at the MU, one of the student staff can actually guide you through the application process. But like I said, if you apply online, you'll just do a telephone interview at a later date. The third option is you can go to one of our county offices to apply in person, but usually most students don't do that because obviously don't have the time or the transportation. So interviews, like I said, you have to do an application and an interview. The interview basically just serves the purpose of going over the application with you, just to make sure that you understood the questions correctly. And pretty much they're just going to ask you about your citizenship, income, rent and utilities, and then like student eligibility. So verifications, it does depend. It's on a case-by-case basis. Typically, we do need like ID. You need to know your social security number. We do need income verifications and like financial aid stuff. It's not that difficult. Usually people stress about not having all the documents. Typically, I tell people just apply. When you have your interview, they'll let you know what documents they'll need at the end of the interview, and they'll give you enough time to turn those documents in. And then if you do get approved, you'll receive a notice in the mail indicating if you've been approved and how much you are eligible for. You do have to report on a semi-annual basis if you do get approved. That basically means that every 6 months you do have to update your case. So how it works, the county mails you out some documents, you complete them, return them to the county, simple as that. And again, I just wanted to put this information up here one more time. Basically the various ways that you can apply for CalFresh. Again, if you want to make an appointment through me, you go to the Aggie Compass website and you go basically to towards the bottom. It says Learn About CalFresh, and then there's a lot of information about CalFresh. So basically stuff that I covered in the presentation and more information about income, student eligibility. So if you want more information about CalFresh, check out the Aggie Compass website, and there's also a link to basically schedule an appointment if you want to do it through me. Like I said, if you can't wait all the way until November, go into the Aggie Compass in person, and one of the student staff can actually help you apply through getcalfresh.org. And to reiterate, getcalfresh.org is a simplified version of the application for students that takes less than 15 minutes to complete. I'm going to leave some flyers with that information, so like my information and basically this information that's up here. Basically, indicating how you can apply for CalFresh. Any questions? No? All right, thank you.